Hello Year 6, back to our book, The Lost Diary of King Henry VIII's Executioner. Last time we had the book, Chopper had just executed the Duke of Buckingham. So now we're on page 35. And just sit back and chill out for a little bit and just listen to the rest of the story, or at least the next instalment. So ye sawn, the 17th of May 1521, still only 9 groats. Buckingham Guilty. Edward Stafford, Duke of Buckingham, was today found guilty of plotting treason against the King's Majesty. Weeping, Buckingham's buddy, the Duke of Norfolk, read out the sentence. The traitor Buckingham will be hanged by the neck, be cut down while still alive, have his limbs amputated, and cast into the flames, have his bowels burnt before him, have his head smitten off, have his body cut into quarters. In the end, Wolsey let him off with a regular beheading. Strange, really. You'd think Wolsey would be keen on seeing Buckingham chopped to bits. His dad is a butcher, after all. Well, I did the business, but I can't say my heart was in it. I've got a special axe put aside for Cardinal Cowpat Wolsey. I'm keeping it blunt on purpose. Page 36, the 11th of October 1521. I'm getting dead tired of hearing about this book of the governor's. It's called the Golden Book. According to Wolsey, who's read it, the creep, it's an attack on some German monk called Martin Luther, who's going round saying the church has got everything wrong and rich people can't just buy their way out of hell by giving money to the church. Actually, that sounds pretty good sense to me. Anyway, the Pope's well chuffed with the governor and has given him a new title, Defender of the Faith. Page 37, 18th of August 1523. Cardinal Cowpat is swanning about as if he owns the place, and he even wants to be the next Pope. The governor is getting fed up with him, and he is going to make his old pal, Sir Thomas More, Speaker of Parliament. More hates Wolsey, so he won't be getting all his own way from now on. As for me, I just keep eyeing up Wolsey's neck, making sure he sees me doing it. Page 38, 10th of March 1524. The governor had a nasty accident today. Everyone's been telling him for years he should pack in jousting. He used to be really good at it, but he's not a young man anymore. But the governor won't have it. Today he insisted on having a tilt with Sir Charles Brandon, who's the best jouster in the business. Well, they set off towards each other, but the governor had forgotten to drop his visor, and Brandon's spear hit the governor smack on the head. Although it didn't kill him, luckily, it left the governor feeling fairly groggy. This evening he came round with a bump on his bonce the size of a duck egg, and while we drank a bottle of sack, he told me he was hanging up his sabots and taking up a more gentle pastime, music. Not before time, I reckon. Page 40, 12th of July, 1525. I wish the governor would go back to jousting. It's kinder on the ears than his music. He came in with his lute to play his latest. What do you reckon? He asked me when he'd finished. I'm calling it Pink Sleeves. I told him that it wasn't a bad tune. If I hadn't, I'd soon be appearing on Top of the Chops, but the title was a bit dated. What's wrong with Pink Sleeves? He asked. That colour's out of date, not in fashion. He shrugged his shoulders and stared at my tunic. Right, Chopper, you're a man of fashion. Instead of pink sleeves, I'll call it green sleeves. And with that, he wandered off. After he'd gone, I looked at my shirt. I thought it best not to tell the governor that the sleeves should be white. They're only green because it's where I wipe my nose. Page 41, the 1st of November 1525. I met Will Summers today. He's the governor's latest court fool. And fool is the right word. He came in wearing a stupid hat with bells on it and begun hopping and jigging all over the place. Hello, Chopper. I've heard that people at court don't like you, he said. Why's that? I asked, worried that I was in trouble. Because you give them a pain in the neck. And he calls himself a jester. One more joke like that, and he'll be just a bit shorter than he was before. page 42, 13th of June 1526. The governor asked me today what I thought of Anne Boleyn. I said without thinking I'd heard she was a bit of a raver. The governor got all huffy and said he'd never listened to malicious gossip. Then a horrible thought struck me. "You don't mean you fancy her, do you?" I blurted out. "I thought you—" I managed to stop myself there, which was just as well, or I'd be on the rack by now, 8 feet long and getting longer. I was about to say that I thought he was having a fling with Anne's sister, Mary. It was the talk of the court, and he'd already chatted her up. And he'd already chatted up her mum Elizabeth, though that was a few years ago. Talk about keeping it in the family. The governor went into a royal rage. He said he needed another wife. What use had Catherine ever been to him? Had she given him a son? No. All her children died except that ugly little witch, Mary. Speaking of witches, I said, Anne's got 6 fingers on her left hand. I suppose it could be useful being married to someone who could count to 11 without taking her shoes off, but my old gran used to say that anyone with extra toes or fingers is a witch. Looking back on it, that probably wasn't a very clever thing to say. I thought the governor was going to explode. He gave me the sort of look he gives people just before he tells me to chop him. Whoops, I thought. He didn't say anything, just turned on his heel and walked away. I reckon he's determined to get a new wife, but the problem is he's going to have to get rid of the one he's already got. I also reckon I'd better come up with something to get back in the governor's good books pretty quickly, or next neck on the block will be mine. 1st of December 1526. I popped in to see the governor this morning. He wouldn't let me in for ages, and when he did, he just growled, "What do you want?" I said I thought of a way of getting rid of Catherine. I told him I'd been skimming through the Bible and had found a bit in it saying it was illegal to marry your brother's wife, which it was what he'd done. The governor asked me what I was getting at. I said there were only 2 ways he could get rid of the Queen apart from chopping her. 1, if he divorced her, or 2, if he'd never been married to her in the first place. The governor said he'd been married to Catherine for 18 years. Not according to the Bible, I said. All he had to do was get the Pope to agree that his marriage was illegal. Then he could give Catherine the boot and marry Anne Boleyn. He was all for it. He reckoned that Wolsey could sort it out with the Pope, and if the Pope wouldn't agree, well, that would be too bad for Wolsey. I left him chuckling and rubbing his hands, so I reckon I got away with it. 26th of December 1526. The governor gave me a few days off for giving him the plan to get rid of Catherine, so I nipped home for Christmas. My mum's house seemed really poky compared to my flat in the tower. Yes, the house has got a sturdy wooden frame and the stick and plaster walls look nice, but there's only one room and the floor is covered in rushes that must be weeks old. They are that filthy and they smell. I told her to make a new hole for the privy and make it further away from the door. But what if I want to go in the night? She said. I'll have to walk too far. I reckon I might try and find her one of those privies that the courtiers keep under their beds for any night-time urges. 3rd of January 1527. Will Summers came over today, still jigging and hopping about. He could tell I wasn't happy to see him. Just remember, he said, there's something worse than being with a fool. What's that? I asked. Fooling with a bee. I don't know why the governor thinks he's funny at all. 3rd of February 1527. Went to Cruncher Harris, the barber's surgeon, today. I walked into his shop and before I could say hello, 2 big blokes grabbed me and pushed me into a chair. Then Cruncher forced my jaws open, stuffed a great pair of tongs into my mouth and pulled out one of my 6 remaining teeth. I nearly shot through the roof. He hadn't even given me a swig of brandy first to numb the pain. I couldn't say anything to him. I just left holding my jaw, and the worst thing about it all, I only went in there for a haircut. I reckon I'll have a word with the governor about making up a law that says surgeons are surgeons and barbers are barbers, so that they can't take your teeth out or cut your leg off when all you want is a short back and sides. Just wait till Cruncher comes in here. I'll give him a haircut to remember, and it won't be just a little bit off the top. 22nd of June 1527. The governor has well and truly done it this time. He asked for a divorce. Catherine can't believe it. It'll all end in tears, mark my words. 16th of June 1528. The governor has really got it in for Cardinal Cowpat these days. The cement had hardly dried on Wolsey's new house, Hampton Court, when the governor turned up. Nice place you've got here, Wolsey, he said. Wouldn't mind living in it myself. It's a bit big for you, isn't it? Wolsey can pick up a hint. Just what I was thinking, Your Majesty, he said. It's yours. Oh, how kind, ta very much. Close the door when you leave, said the governor. I'd have given £1 to see Cardinal Cowpat's face. There'll be another recording later in the week to tell you what comes next. See you soon.